Unclose Treaty, UNCLOS, Unclose Treaty, and also discuss about Italian Marines case. Right? This case was in the news from 2 to 3 days, and this Unclose Treaty, UNCLOS Treaty, was also there in news for various reasons frequently. So we will be taking this issue today. So basically, 2 days back, this judgment was given about this Italian Marines case. Newspaper articles was not in favor of India, and justice for fishermen deaths was not achieved by this judgment. And also our government said that it is withdrawing all the cases which it had put on the Italian Marines. So in this context, we'll try to see what is actually this Italian Marines case, what is this UNCLOS Unclose Treaty, and what are some important provisions of this treaty. So before we start with Unclose Treaty, let us start with this Italian Marines case, right? So what is this Italian Marines case? This is basically a case about what happened in 2012. This is a case between India and Italy, right? In 2012, near the Kerala coast area, the Italian naval people have killed 2 of the Indian fishermen, thinking that they were pirates. The Italian Marines, that is the Italian Navy personnel, 2 of them, our Indian fishermen, were killed by this Italian Marines, right? So now this has become an issue in 2012, and what happened was our Indian police at that time have charge sheeted and detained the 2 Italian Navy people who were responsible for this, who did this actually, who killed these Indian fishermen thinking as pirates. Those 2, they were detained by the Indian police. And also what happened then was, then Italy went to a court. There is a court which is set up under this Unclose Treaty, UNCLOS, Unclose Treaty. So under this treaty, a tribunal is there. So Italy went to this tribunal demanding that Italian personnel who were charge sheeted and detained, they have to get back to Italy. They have to be sent back to Italy. And also India has to stop any criminal proceedings against these Italian Marines. So Italy has demanded this, and it went to the tribunal. Now, by that time, the National Investigative Agency, NIA of India, already charge sheeted and was about to start the prosecution of these Italian Marines. So, but then the tribunal in the year 2015 has asked India to freeze all the prosecutions on these Italian Marines till a future judgment is given, till a final judgment is given. The tribunal under this Unclose Treaty, that is the ITLOS, the tribunal's name is ITLOS, International Tribunal for the Laws of Sea, laws, LAW, so International Tribunal for the Laws of Sea, right? So this tribunal has asked India to suspend all the prosecutions till the final judgment is given. And recently, this tribunal has given the final judgment, right? What did the final judgment tell? The final judgment told that Italian Marines should not be prosecuted by the Indian government. And Italian Marines, they have immunity from the Indian laws and Indian prosecution, right? This was the judgment given by the International Tribunal. However, it also said that Italian Marines, by killing our Indian fishermen, have breached India's freedom of navigation, right? This is important because the tribunal has told that India can't prosecute the Italian Marines, but the tribunal also said that India's freedom of navigation was breached. That means was violated by the Italian Marines by killing our fishermen, right? And also the third thing which the tribunal told was the Italy country has to prosecute these Italian Marines. It has to do the investigation, and if any such compensation has to be given for India, it has to be provided to the India, right? It said that Indian government cannot trial these Italian marines, but Italian government has to trial these Italian marines, has to prosecute them and find out if there are any flaws, then compensation has to be given to the Indian government, right? This was also said by the court tribunal, and also the tribunal also said that Italy and India both have jurisdiction over what happens in the sea. In the sea region, regarding this incident, actually both Italy and India both have jurisdiction, right? It said that Italy and India both have concurrent jurisdiction over this incident. However, because these Italian marines, they are the officials of the Italian government, they enjoy some immunity. If we clearly examine Article 14 of our Indian Constitution also, which is about rule of law, there one of the reasonable restriction or one of the exception for rule of law is any officials related to other governments, they enjoy immunity, right? The diplomats and officials of the other countries' governments, they enjoy immunity from the laws and prosecution of our India, right? So seeing in that way also, Italian marines being Italian officials, they have immunity. So this was the overall judgment, and this is the overall Italian marines case. On one hand, the government said that it is respecting the tribunal's judgment, and it is withdrawing all the cases which the government of India has registered on the Italian marines. But on the other hand, if we see, there is an editorial in Hindu's newspaper saying that Italian marines case meets with a disappointing end, right? The fishermen communities are saying that they need justice, right? An opportunity to get justice was missed. So these are the two arguments about this international tribunal judgment regarding Italian marines case. Now, if we observe one thing, the prosecution, the final judgment, the tribunal, all these, they are a result of this Unclose Treaty, UNCLOS, United Nations Convention on Law of Seas. This is the treaty, right? This treaty gave rise to a tribunal. This treaty takes care of the seas and the oceans, right? How should the governance be? How should the disputes between two countries be resolved? All these come under this Unclose Treaty, right? This is for global governance in the seas and oceans, right? And this was adopted in the year 1982. This was adopted in the year 1982. This is for governing and managing disputes in the marine region. And this Unclose Treaty divides the seas into 5 zones, right? This is important for us with respect to prelims, right? This Unclose divides the sea and the ocean into 5 zones. And in these 5 zones, the rights of one country and the responsibilities of one country in these zones varies depending on the regions, right? So there are 5 zones in which the ocean is divided by this Unclose, and this Unclose Treaty, this tells exactly what are the rights or what are the extent of area which is under one country's control, right? All this is told by this Unclose Treaty. And also navigation in the oceans. Up to what extent can a country freely navigate in the ocean, right? All these things are also told by this Unclose Treaty, right? So basically this regulates navigation, and also this ensures governance in the oceans. And one important thing which we have to know is United States is not a part of this Unclose Treaty, right? United States is not a part of this Unclose Treaty. And now we will try to analyze the 5 zones by which this Unclose Treaty divides the seas and the ocean region. So to divide the seas and oceans, it needs a baseline, that is a line. Yeah, so this is the picture. This is the way by which the Unclose Treaty divides the sea region, right? So there we can see the baseline. That is the line which is the reference line from which different zones are calculated. So that is the baseline where you can see it's written there. So from there, five different zones are demarcated, right? The first one is internal waters, right? The first one is internal waters. Now this is the region from the baseline towards the land, not towards the sea, right? From the baseline towards the land. So this basically, this internal waters, it includes the seas, beaches, rivers, ports, lakes, all these things come under this internal waters. So baseline is basically a reference line from where these zones are calculated. So from this baseline, this baseline lies somewhere in the coastal region, right? Somewhere in the waters. This reference lines lies somewhere in the waters. From there towards the land, internal waters region is calculated. So this internal waters region is very crucial to India, right? For any country. This basically consists of all the rivers, ports, beaches, lakes, all these regions are there, right? In this internal waters region. Here, complete sovereignty lies with that particular country. No other country can enter into the internal waters region. For example, if India has internal waters region, no other country can bring its ship into our internal waters region till we give the permission, right? Because ports, beaches, all these strategic things are a part of this internal waters. So this is internal waters, zone 1. Now the zone 2 is territorial sea, right? Zone 2 is territorial sea. This is 12 nautical miles from the baseline towards the ocean. 12 nautical miles from the baseline towards the ocean, towards the seas, right? So this region is called territorial sea. This is also somewhat near to the coastal area. From the coastal baseline towards the ocean, 12 nautical miles. So here also a country has sovereignty and jurisdiction over this zone. Say India's territorial sea, India has complete sovereignty and jurisdiction over this zone. Not only on the surface of the sea, even the airspace and the subsurface also, right? Below the ocean, on the ocean, and above the ocean. This entire region comes under the control and sovereignty of a country, right? This region is called territorial sea. You can get the picture in the Google itself. So if you could Google it, you can Google it, or you can see it later also. So territorial sea is this region. Here also, other countries' ships cannot enter into our territorial sea region also. But if they come to this territorial sea without their knowledge, which is called innocent passage, that means without knowledge, as we can see, we don't have boundaries in the seas, right? We don't have boundaries in the sea. So in case if any other ships come into this region, they will be asked to leave from this territorial sea region, right? Whereas in the internal waters which we have discussed, even in an innocent way also they cannot enter, right? Even without their knowledge also, they are not allowed to enter the internal waters region. But territorial sea, innocent passage is allowed. Without their knowledge, if they come into this region, they should be asked to leave that region. Now comes the contiguous zone. This is 24 nautical miles from the baseline, right? From the coastal baseline, this is 24 nautical miles, right? So this is a intermediary zone between territorial sea and the high seas. What is high seas? High seas is basically that region of the sea which is under no country's control. It is free to navigate. That is high seas. So between that high seas and the territorial seas, this contiguous zone is there, right? Here, only on the ocean jurisdiction, the country has sovereignty. Here, airspace is not under the country's control. In this contiguous zone, only on the ocean, the sovereignty of the country will be there, right? Airspace is not under a country's control. This is the place where the Italian Marines case happened, right? So this is the contiguous zone. Actually, here freedom of navigation is there up to some extent. However, the Italians thought that these Indian fishermen were pirates and that's why they have killed them. So this third zone is contiguous zone. The fourth zone is important. This is exclusive economic zone, right? This is exclusive economic zone. So here fishing is mostly done by all the countries. So this is basically 200 nautical miles from the baseline, right? 200 nautical miles from the baseline. Here all the things happen: oil exploration, natural resources exploration, energy production, wind energy production, ocean energy production. All these are done. So India has a 200 nautical miles of exclusive economic zone from its coastline, right? So from its coastline till this 200 nautical miles line, all this region only India can economically exploit. No other countries can exploit. This is called exclusive economic zone, right? Only India can exploit and no other country can exploit, right? However, in this exclusive economic zone region, other countries' ships can freely navigate. There is no restriction on other countries' ships. They can freely navigate in this region. However, economically exploiting or exploring is only under the hands of India, right? This is called exclusive economic zone. And the next zone is high seas, zone 5. This is high seas. High seas is that region which is beyond the exclusive economic zone, right? So here no restrictions will be there. These regions can be used by all the countries for trade, transport, or for exploration for any purpose. These seas can be used. These are not under the control of one single country. These are in control of many countries, right? Many countries together try to take care of this region, right? There are no restrictions for movement in this high seas region. However, to explore anything in this high seas region, to explore any minerals or to explore oil resources in this region, the Unclos has made a body called International Seabed Authority, ISA, International Seabed Authority, which regulates exploration in the high seas. Exploration of resources in this high seas is done by this International Seabed Authority, right? So these are the 5 different zones: baseline, internal waters, territorial sea, contiguous zone, exclusive economic zone, and high seas. It would be better if you try to analyze these regions by seeing the picture, right? Then you will be getting a better idea. So this Unclose Treaty, these provisions are important because every time we can see South China dispute regarding islands going on. This might have been covered in international relations also. In the South China Sea, China, Philippines, Vietnam, Japan, these countries every time have conflicts relating to islands control, relating to exclusive economic zone control, right? China, by drawing a line called 9-dash line, outrightly claims that almost that entire sea is under the control of China, right? But we have Philippines there, we have Vietnam there, we have Japan also there. They also have their islands. So in this way, maritime disputes are there between China and other countries in the South China Sea. For that reason also, this Unclose Treaty is important for us. And also if we see 2 to 3 days back, US, United States, has conducted this freedom of navigation exercise. Freedom of navigation exercise, naval exercise in the South China Sea, right? Then China said that this is a violation of China's sovereignty and is a threat to China's sovereignty, right? So regarding this also, Unclose Treaty is very much important, and US is not a part of this Unclose Treaty. That also we have to know, right? So overall, if we see, for regulating navigation in the open seas, for regulating navigation in these ocean regions, and also for global governance in the seas, and also for sustainable blue economy, this Unclose Treaty is the only binding treaty, right? This is the only one important treaty that effectively deals with maritime disputes.